Today we're going to be talking about graphing quadratics from factored form. So before we go into the factored form, we need to talk about the general form because there's pieces of information the general form will tell us. The general form of a quadratic equation is a times x squared plus bx plus c. The leading coefficient, which is the a, is in front of your highest power, which is the x squared. So in this problem in the bottom, our a is -2, our b is 7, and our c is 5. So what each of those pieces tell us is the a tells us the direction the graph is going to open. Positive will open up and negative will open down. So looking back at this problem, we have a -2. So that tells me this graph is going to open down. What that means is the graph is going to be shaped in this format. The B, we don't have anything we're using it right now for. We will talk about its purpose and some things we can do with it later. The C will tell you your y-intercept. That is where it crosses the y-axis. And remember, with any quadratic, it will only cross the y-axis once. And so the ordered pair is going to be 0, 5 for this problem, based upon our C value. Let's take another example. So I left off the x at the end of this one. So, and I talked about this as with factored form. We haven't even gotten into the factored form yet. The factors, when you set them equal to 0, are the x-intercepts. So we have just talked about the pieces from before even factor it. So let's talk about those again in this problem first. So based upon my a, I know this graph is going to open down. And based upon my c, I know my y-intercept is 0, well, I don't have anything out here, so that means it's 0, 0. Now, I'm going to factor this equation, or this function, and so what can come out of both pieces is a -3x. And now, if the leading coefficient is negative, you are going to factor out a negative every single time, if nothing else. So both of them had an x, so I factored out an x, and a 3 divides into both numbers. So -3 divided by -3 is 1. X squared divided by x is x. -24 divided by -3 is 8. This is negative divided by negative. That's a positive 8. I've already factored out the x. That x is gone. So the function is equal to -3x times the quantity of x plus 8. Now we're going to take each of those little pieces and find out more information about each one. And so we're going to set each of them equal to 0. So -3x equals 0. And that means the first x-intercept is at 0, 0, which we already knew based upon our y-intercept, because our y-intercept was at the origin, therefore we had to have an x-intercept at the origin. Now let's take the next equation. And so that would be part of the expression is going to be x plus 8, and we set that equal to 0. And so x must equal a -8. So that means the next x-intercept is -8, 0. So now that we have our two x-intercepts, it's going to tell us a little bit more. We have our x-intercepts we can have. We have our y-intercept. And we have the way the graph is going to open. The last piece of information we want to find is, where is my vertex? Can I locate my vertex? And so my vertex will be found by finding our two x-intercepts. So for the finding the x value by finding our two x-intercepts, negative 8 plus 0, and dividing it by 2. So averaging them. So negative 8 plus 0 is negative 8. Divided by 2 is going to give us a negative 4. So the x value of my vertex is negative 4. My y value does need a little bit more work to find. And when you find your y value, you find it by plugging in that negative 4 we just got into the function. So f of negative 4, and finding out where is that. So that's negative 3 times that negative 4 squared minus 24 times a negative 4. And so when we do that math, we first need to take care of that squared. So that's negative 3 times a positive 16. And minusing a negative, and we're going to be multiplying these next two. That's going to create a positive 96. Now we're going to multiply the 3 times the 16, which gives us a negative 48 plus 96, which equals to a positive 48. So the ordered pair for my vertex is negative 4, comma 48. So just reviewing the key pieces of information. We found our x-intercepts. This is the factored form. We found our vertex. And we know that the graph opens down. And from there, we can sketch this graph. So let's do another one. So we need to first find the factored form. So this one is a trinomial. And so let's find the key pieces of information and see what they tell me. So my leading coefficient is positive, so therefore I know the graph is going to open up. My C is negative 21, so I know the ordered pair for my y-intercept is 0, negative 21. And now I just need to find the other pieces of information. So to get them, I need to factor. So I create my little factor box. I know this is going to be an x squared. I know this is going to be a negative 21. I multiply those together. I get negative 21x squared. Look for the factors that create that will give me the sum of a negative 4. And so negative 7x and a positive 3x will give me that. So I go up to my box, and I'm going to put in the 3x and the negative 7x. And look for the factors. And then come back over and write it in factored form. So f of x is equal to x minus 7 and x plus 3. So that's my factored form. Then I need to set each of those factors equal to 0. So x minus 7 equals 0, and I solve, and that means that x has to equal positive 7. And then I take the other one and do the same thing. X plus 3 equals 0 and solve for x. And so that gives me my two x-intercepts at 7, 0 and -3, 0. So these are my two x-intercepts. And with what I have here, I could almost even graph it from that point. But let's go ahead and find the vertex. So when we find that vertex, I know that the x value is going to be in between these two. So I need to add those together. 7 plus the -3 and divide that by 2. So 7 plus a -3 is going to be a +4 divided by 2 gives me a 2. So the x value of my vertex is 2. Now to find my y value, I'm going to plug that 2 in to my function and solve. And so when I plug that 2 in, it ends up looking like this. Two squared minus 4 times 2 minus 21. And so 2 squared is 4 minus 8 minus 21. 4 minus 8 is -4 minus 21 gives me a -25. So at 2, -25 is my vertex. So again, my key pieces of information, I have my function factored. I know it opens up. I know that the y-intercept is at -21. I know my two x-intercepts are at 7, 0, and -3, 0. I know my vertex is located at 2, -25.